Hello and welcome to South Asia Diary with me, Mariam Wardak. Today we are on a trail of treasure hunters in Afghanistan, not the kind that you see in Hollywood. These treasure hunters are not doing this out of choice, but out of desperation. What they are looking for are tiny pellets of emerald. In the right hands, they can fetch a modest price. Most of the miners are former government officials. They were soldiers and bureaucrats in the US-backed government in Kabul. Now, scared of retribution, they are slugging away in the mountains of Panjshir. Also on the show,
Meet the Afghan Saviours of New Delhi, two brothers who are running a charity to save injured birds in the city. Startups in Pakistan are rebooting the country's most important sector, agriculture. Sri Lanka celebrated its 74th Independence Day amid a raging foreign exchange crisis. Bangladesh's decision to keep schools closed has triggered a debate among teachers and parents. Do long-term closures harm children in the long run?
Afghan officials who worked for the now ousted civilian government are living a precarious life. The Taliban did offer them amnesty, but human rights groups say hundreds of former soldiers and bureaucrats have been targeted. Some of them have made it to the hills on Panjshir. Their mission? To make a living out of emerald mines. It may sound like a money-spinning venture, but in reality, it's hard work for little money.
A coterie of men sit around in the snow, all of them rummaging through the coarse earth. What they are looking for is tiny, about as big as a peanut. But in the right hands, they can fetch good money. Emeralds, that's what they are hunting.
I'm searching through sand and stones here. This sand is second and third hand. We bring it out of the mine and sift through it here. We are washing the bags and the emeralds that we find there and selling them for 50, 80, 100 and 150 Afghanis.
Up here in Panjshir, emeralds are not new. Locals have known about it for thousands of years. But systematic mining came late, around the 1970s. These men are the latest treasure hunters. First to arrive are the blasters. Huge booms echo throughout the valley as mine shafts are carved out. Now the diggers go in. 10 miners usually make up one team. And each shaft is co-owned by dozens of people. It's hard work for little pay.
We don't have proper rooms for living and people are living in tents. Sometimes it's raining and snowing, so it's very difficult. If you bring the sand, that's also difficult. In the winter, you don't have water, fire, proper house or a proper clinic. If you get sick or get cold, you have to go to the clinic and have medicine. So it's very complicated here.
Gulbuddin worked in the now disbanded Afghan army. He had decent pay, good working conditions and respect in the community. At this job, he says, he feels like cattle. Squalid camps, extreme working conditions and meager wages.
The job that I had was a very good job. I had a $350 salary in the previous government. The current work is not a job, we are like cattle here. We do not have enough income. The old job was better, but still we thank God for it.
Most miners tell a similar story. They worked for the US-backed government in Kabul. Some were police officers, others were bureaucrats. When the Taliban captured power, they fled. The new regime has promised amnesty for all. But ground reports tell a different story. More than 100 former soldiers and cops have been executed or have disappeared. Not joining that list is priority number one.
I had worked in offices, in administrative sections, in the police, and it was very difficult for me to go all of a sudden and switch to such physical work. It was very difficult for me, but I had to create an alternative to prepare myself for any kind of situation because there were no job opportunities. That is why I started working in the mines.
What does the Taliban make of these emerald hunters? Their fighters did visit this valley in September. They called up the miners to examine their palms. They were looking for wear and tear. If you're a new miner, chances are your hands are unscathed. Chances are you switched jobs recently. 20 such men were rounded up by the Taliban. Thankfully, they were released soon. But high up in the ridges of Panjshir, the Taliban aren't the only danger. Accidents are never far away.
Yes, accidents happen. My uncle and cousin were hit by an explosion in that mountain. The latter was killed and the former wounded. You saw the guys who are pulling the trolleys. This is itself dangerous, and 2 of them from my team were also hit and wounded in the back. So walking in the mountains is hard, heavy and dangerous. It's working with bombs and explosives.
These miners are not here out of choice. They are here out of desperation. Some of them have large families to feed. Offering their services to the vengeful Taliban is not an option. So they come here every day, rummaging through the sand in search of treasures. Humble treasures, we should say. South Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
India's capital, New Delhi, is home to thousands of birds. Pigeons, doves, sparrows, eagles. You name it, you can see it in Delhi. But an untold number of these birds are killed by human actions, sometimes by sharp kites, sometimes in car accidents. 2 brothers in New Delhi are running a charity to save such birds. This is their story.
It's a proud moment for this bird rescuer in New Delhi. Nestling in his arms is an Egyptian vulture, all patched up and recovered. A few tentative steps, a few flaps of the wing, and it's off. One bird rescued, many more to go. Meet Nadeem Shahzad and Mohammad Saud, 2 brothers united in a common goal: to rescue the birds of New Delhi.
Every day at least 100 birds are injured by threads of flying kites in Delhi. Currently, at our rescue center, we treat at least 5 to 6 birds injured by these threads every day.
Delhi is home to many winged predators. They zoom through the skies, proud and majestic. But unknown to them, dangers lurk. Flying kites, car accidents, and deadly encounters with humans. A lucky few are found by these brothers. They spend days, often weeks, nursing the birds back to health.
Most of the cases come to us are the birds which are cut by the kite flying thread, the manja, which is a sharp thread, and it cuts very deeply into the muscles and bones. Even we have seen the bones which are sliced into 2 pieces with a very clean sharp cut. It's like some surgeon had cut it out.
Not every bird is lucky enough to be saved. That depends on multiple factors.
Just looking at it, you can't.
How quickly was the injured bird found? How severe is the injury? Mohammad Saud is treating one such bird. He carefully jostles with the flapping patient, still ensnared by a wire. The brothers specialize in raptors. better known as birds of prey. Their aviary is populated by vultures and eagles, ferocious yet majestic. Further south is another aviary. This one is run by Rajkumar Rajputs. Here you will find doves and pigeons, less ferocious but equally majestic.
The distance between humans and birds has only been increasing. We are unable to bridge this distance because the people are gradually losing their love for nature. These birds are the builders of the natural environment, and us humans are the destroyers.
Rajput believes the pandemic lockdowns were a blessing for birds. Less traffic, less pollution, less kites in the air. Like everywhere else in the world, here too, nature was healing.
During the lockdowns, the birds healed a lot. The common sparrows have increased in numbers. One couldn't see them so much before the lockdown. The city and its concrete structures are only growing, so there's less space for sparrows.
But you cannot keep cities locked down forever. In the end, we humans must adapt. The earth was never a monopoly of ours. These birds too are equal stakeholders. South Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
Around 42% of Pakistan's workforce is employed in the agriculture industry, but it only contributes to 19% of the national GDP. One reason for this gulf is a lack of mechanization. Farmers still use rudimentary techniques to cultivate crops. They have not integrated their farms with the internet either. Now, a new generation of startups is bringing a digital twist to Pakistan's agriculture.
Muddy roads, cows and donkeys lazing around. This is Chak 26, a typical sleepy village in Pakistan's Punjab province. It looks almost untouched by time, except for this white signboard. Digital Dera, it says. Inside, a group of confused farmers have gathered. It's their first contact with technology. 6 of them eagerly peer into the tablet. It must seem like a crystal ball to them. Weather, market prices, everything they need is on this device.
It has brought a change for us, and we are very happy with this. It's a good thing and helping us in our business.
Before, we were relying on the experiences of our elders or our own ideas, but that was not too reliable as we had no information on the situation of the land or how much fertilizer we use on it.
For Chak 26, it's like a mission to the moon. Farmers here have always used rudimentary techniques. Sowing, harvesting, everything was done based on instincts.
The latest machinery we have is tractor now. So we, didn't go much further in agriculture technology and machinery. So we thought that there should be something that how we can help farmers to get connected with the world.
This is part of a larger revolution in Pakistan. Agriculture was always big here. 40% contribution to the workforce, 19% contribution to the GDP, but technology was missing. Filling that gap are the startups of Pakistan, like Taza. This is their warehouse in Lahore. Dozens of men are busy loading produce onto their bikes. From here, the fruits and vegetables are taken to traders. Taza delivers around 100 tons of produce every day.
So what Taza over here is doing is, it's bringing some sense to the madness. So what we are doing is creating a transparency across the value chain.
There's a lot of excitement about these startups. They have brought method to agriculture in Pakistan. Now farmers use science to grow crops. When to sow? What are the good practices? How to deal with pests? Technology has all the answers. After harvest, firms like Taza take over. They take the produce to traders. The traders take it to customers. It's a simple setup, but one that has excited investors.
A lot of the international markets that the investors venture capitalists were after have saturated, including India, Indonesia, and the markets have become overheated. Pakistan was one of those untapped markets.
Agri-tech has a lot of potential in Pakistan. The fifth largest population, a still agrarian economy. The infusion of technology could be the answer to this sector's woes. South Asia Bureau, WION, World is One.
Last week, Sri Lanka celebrated its 74th Independence Day. As always, the day was celebrated with a parade in the national capital. Weapons, soldiers, artists were part of the event. The idea behind the parade is to showcase Sri Lanka's prowess, not just in terms of the military, but also culture and diversity. What is the story of Sri Lanka's independence? How has the country changed in the last 7 decades?
Cannon fire, marching bands, and fly pasts. This is how Sri Lanka celebrated its 74th Independence Day. As always, the military parade in Colombo was the highlight, all held under COVID-19 restrictions. This year, there was an added headache, a daunting foreign exchange crisis. None of this pomp and glory could hide the reality. Sri Lanka's treasury is nearly empty. When Gotabaya Rajapaksa took office as president, Sri Lanka's forex stood at $7.5 billion. And today, around 3.1 billion remains. This theme dominated the president's speech to the nation. He thanked Lankan expats for their remittances. He also had a plea for them: invest more.
Expatriate Sri Lankans who provide foreign exchange to the country are a major resource to us. We have not forgotten how they came forward for the country in the recent past and supported us, making great sacrifices. We greatly appreciate their regular contribution to energize our economy.
The grim economic outlook did not dampen the mood in Colombo. Multiple regiments marched down the tree-lined road, guns in hand, their arms moving in unison to the sound of the band. Overhead, the Lankan Air Force put on a show, jets, helicopters, all flying in formation. No doubt, these are dire times for the island nation. A debt crisis that keeps getting bigger. A government that refuses to acknowledge the problem. Hopefully, Independence Day will provide some impetus. South Asia Bureau, WION, World is One.
The Omicron wave continues to sweep through Bangladesh. As infections keep rising, the government has decided to close down schools. At the same time, businesses and trade fairs are going in full swing. Many teachers are worried that shutting schools will be counterproductive for kids. What is the alternative in a country like Bangladesh? What will be the long-term effect of so many children missing classes?
The Omicron wave is sweeping through Bangladesh. One of the biggest victims are schools. On February 6th, Dhaka closed all schools amid mounting infections. Now, that decision has been extended, but teachers are circumspect. Will longer school closures impact children in the long run?
The way students can perceive the lessons in a classroom, that is not possible in an online class. There are many factors. One thing is teaching materials. It is very important to use teaching materials in order to make the students' perception clear. Online classes can't reach to this point. Besides, teachers like us are habituated with teaching in a classroom.
Online classes are about education. But what about the social aspect of schools? The playgrounds, the debate clubs, and things like that.
Students come to school and play with their mates. It develops their mind and increases knowledge. They are being deprived of these things and much more. They have become confined. They are under mental pressure. They seem to be a bit behind their usual state.
Not everyone is happy with the decision. They ask, why just schools? The book fairs are open. The trade fairs are operating. So why just target schools?
Educational institutes are those are more essential compared to this kind of recreation centers or trade fairs. So I don't see any coordination in these orders.
At the same time, infections are rising. Experts argue that Bangladesh needs tougher restrictions, not just for schools, but all public gatherings.
We never know that the saturation may be crossed because the substantial number of our older population, more than 4 million, are still unvaccinated. And as I said, only 35% has been vaccinated twice. So there is a lot of unprotected group of people, and we must be careful about coming to a conclusion that this wave will not create a catastrophic situation.
4 million people in Bangladesh are not vaccinated, and children are among the most vulnerable. So while shutting schools is an easy fix, the government needs to find a permanent solution to balance education with pandemic control. South Asia Bureau, WION World is one.
That's all we have for you on this episode of South Asia Diary. We'll be back next week with a brand new lineup of stories. Until then, stay safe. I am Mariam Wardak and you are watching WION. World is one.